Welcome dear students. In this video lecture we are going to continue the discussion on the salient features of the Constitution of India. In the last class we started to discuss about the Constitution of India document as per the course content in the first unit. So just a revising of the previous class things. So the Indian Constitution document is the detailed framework on the political code, structure and procedures, and we already discussed the history of India just before the independence and after the independence in view of the construction of the constitution document, and about the British constitution system, which is the company rule and the crown rule followed in various stages of India, and the demand for the constituent assembly, how the demand is arised, and who are all the initiators to form the constituent assembly, which are all the political parties involved in stimulating the development of constitution of India, and what is the interim government structure formed in the year 1946, and the members and workers in the first cabinet of the Free India, which is formed in the year 1947 just after the independence, and about the basic structure of the constituent assembly, that is the major committees and minor committees, and exclusively about the drafting committee, which is the sole responsible for drafting the constituent document, led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and the various stages of the constituent document preparation, the draft document, and after the certain revisions the draft document is submitted for reading in the year 1948, and after all three readings the submission of finalized copy of the constitution document is happened in the November 26 and 1949 by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and the enforcement of the constitution document in various stages. The final and complete enforcement is happened in the year 1950 on January 26, which is later celebrated as the Republic Day of India. So after that, we started to discuss about the salient features, that is, the unique features of the Indian Constitution document over the other constitution document in the world for the many countries. So the first point, as you know, it is the lengthiest written constitution over the world in all other countries. So it is contains of lot of factors and parameters giving complete guidance to the politics and infrastructural facilities of the government and non-governmental bodies, and given a detailed framework on rights and duties of every citizen. That's why this document is the biggest document in the world, and this document is prepared from lot of resources all around the world. So by referring the constituent document of many countries, our country constituent development committee framed our constitution document, and it's having interaction and resemblance of many constitution document of the leading countries like America, British, Irish, Canada and Germany, and this a perfect blend of rules which are all rigid and flexible. So majorly two type of constitution document we can find worldwide: the rigid constitution and the flexible constitution. In America the constitution document is completely rigid, in British the constitution document is completely flexible, but Indian constitution documents having the essence of rigidity and flexible in proper manner. So some way it is rigid, some way it is flexible. This rigidity and flexibility is given based on the regional condition and people mentality of India, and also this constitution document giving a detailed framework on the federal system of government. So based on that, the Indian constitution giving a detailed guidelines for the federal and non-federal features of our country. So it is having both flexible and non-federal features in the every actions of the government and non-governmental bodies. And the parliamentary form of the government is also given with a detailed framework of the Constitution of India. So here we are going to opt the not British parliamentary system and American presidential system. We are having this blend. So the parliamentary system is generally based on the principle of cooperation and coordination between the legislative and executive organs. And this parliamentary system in India is resembles the both. And these are all the very important features of the parliamentary form of our government. The majority party is led to rule the country, and responsibilities in each and every aspects is contributed by central and state government. And we are having members in both central and state governments, and the central government is led by the prime minister and the state government is led by the chief minister. So up to this point we discussed in the last class as the silent features of the constitution, and in today's class we are going to discuss the rest of the silent features of our constitution. The first point what we are going to discuss today is the synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. So the parliament sovereignty is found in the British Parliament and judicial supremacy is found in the American Supreme Court. So first of all, what is the meaning of the term parliament sovereignty? So the parliament in the country British is having the ultimate power. No other government or non-governmental bodies are able to control the parliament. So the politics is the supreme power in British case. But in the case of America, the Supreme Court is having the sole right, even it is able to control the parliament also. All political systems and political frames are coming under the control of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the sole power in the case of America. But in the case of India, the system, the constitution system is giving equal priority to the parliament as well as the Supreme Court. So in the case of Indian constitution, the blend of British principle of parliamentary sovereignty and American principle of judicial supremacy are there. So here the Supreme Court can declare the parliamentary laws through the concept judicial review. This judicial review concept is very new to this world, which is not found in any other countries. So the Supreme Court having the rights to review the principles and the constitution thoughts raised in the parliament, and this can able to edit and fix the modifications in the concepts of parliament. And at the same time the parliament can amend the portions of the constitution through its constituent power. The parliament is also having some power to edit and modify its constitution. So in this way the Supreme Court and Parliament are having some portions of responsibilities and are able to edit each of them principles. And the seventh one is here we can find the integrated and independent judiciary. The judiciary system of the India is very big. So India is the second largest people population country in the world. So in that case the judicial system is also a very big one in India. So the country is having one Supreme Court national wide, and each state we are having high courts, and below the high courts in states we are having district courts and other lower courts. So numerous number of district courts and lower courts are there, and in each state we are having high courts, and ultimate power is the Supreme Court. So this is nothing but the judicial system of our country. So this by this judicial system, the Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal, and this Supreme Court is the guarantor of all the rights to the Indian citizens. This will assure the implementation of all rights and duties of every citizen. In the same way, this will protect the constitution principle among the country. And in the meantime, this constitution provides the judiciary section as the independence for legal movements of the judges. The legal movements of the judges are assured by the constitution principle, and there is a security of tenure of the judges is also assured, and fixed service condition for the judges, and the expenses and all the expenditures of the judicial system is funded by the common fund from the India. And point number 8 is fundamental rights. So in countries like India, we should have a detailed framework on what are all the rights of a citizen. So here the part 3 of Indian constitution guarantees the 6 fundamental rights to all the citizens. The number 1 is right to equality. So no matter on a person's race, caste, gender, religion and place of birth, the opportunities for every citizen should be equally provided all around the country, and the other factors are not having any influence on that. And the next one is right to freedom. So people in India are having freedom to speech, write and present media, assembly and petition to the government. These are all the rights offered to the Indian citizen and a group of Indian citizens for their thoughts and expression. And right against exploitation. So this guarantees the every citizen to act against the enforcements on their basic rights. If there is any misuse of service by force on the in any particular citizen, they are able to oppose it in legal way. So this is nothing but right against exploitation. And then right to freedom of religion. So this is a very important point. People in India are having freedom to believe and worship their own religion gods and religion formalities. There is no restriction on any people to worship their religion. And cultural and educational rights. People in India are free to follow their own religion or regional based cultures. They can follow their language and formalities fixed in their religion or culture, and they are able to develop educational institution and administrate them in the base of minority consent. And then right to constitutional remedies. So in any case, if any right of a Indian citizen is opposed and restricted by any individual or any group, they are free to approach the judiciary section directly to fight and retrieve their rights. So these are all the 6 basic fundamental rights offered to Indian citizens all over the country through the Indian constitution system. And the ninth one is directive principles of state policy. So a detailed principle guidelines instructions are developed into the states in order to achieve the socio-economic development of the state. So these principles will guide the administrator of each and every state to run the state for towards the welfare and justice among the people in the state. In the meantime, these instructions are not enforceable in the courts, and no one can go near the court for its proper implementation. These are all considered as the duties of the states to follow the directive principles of the state policy. These directive principles are differ based on the state and based on region, based on the people culture, based on the natural resources available. The directive principles may differ from state to state. And then fundamental duties. So however we are enjoying any number of fundamental rights, the Constitution of India is also giving a detailed guideline and what are all the fundamental duties of the Indian citizens. They have to respect the constitution, national flag and national anthem, and they have to act to protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of the country. It is the duty of all the citizens. They have to respect the sovereignty of the country, and they have to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people. So everyone is advised to maintain the brotherhood nature among the general public, and they have to preserve the heritage of our composite culture. So already we know India is the combination of many cultures and languages and religions. So in that case, each and every culture, religion and regions are having their own heritage. So every one of us having duty to save all the religion and heritages, and these fundamental duties are as reminder to the citizens, and the citizens are asked to be quite conscious of their duties they owe their country, their society and to their fellow citizens. However, these like the directive principles, the duties mentioned as the fundamental duties in the constitution document are also non-justiciable in nature. So no one can offend anyone that he is not following the duty, and he should be punishable. In this way, no one can say. And number 11 is a secular state. So secular, the term which is most relevant to no religious considerations given to any Indian citizen in the states for enjoying the government benefits or any other region based benefits. Everything should be common to everyone, and the universal adult franchise system is followed in India in the case of electing and selecting the leaders in statewide and central wide. So the any Indian citizen which who is over the age 18 are able to select their leader through the proper election system, and the single citizenship is implemented all over the India. We can enjoy the same political and civil right of citizenship all over the country. Once you got the driving license in any state, that driving license is applicable in all over the India. This is nothing but the single citizenship benefits. In the same way, we are having a national wide documents for us and the national wide facilities for us, and which are all irrespective of the state in where we are belongs to. And in addition to the basic bodies, that is the legislative, executive and judicial bodies in state and central government, the Constitution of India is also developed some independent bodies all around the countries like Election Commission, Auditor General, UPSC and SPSC. The Election Commission is responsible to conduct the public elections. They are independent bodies. They are not under the control of state and central government. They are having their own principles, instructions and duties for their basic job. And then the Auditor General team is nothing but the team which is able to access and check, verify the fund utilization of central and state government. And UPSC, Union Public Service Commission, is responsible to conduct the competitive exams to select employees for the central government jobs and places. And SPSC is implemented in all the states, that is State Public Service Commission. In our state also we are having TNPSC, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission. So this state level public service commissions are responsible to conduct the competitive exams and give employment to the people in state level jobs. And the 15th salient feature of Indian Constitution is emergency provisions. So the Indian Constitution contains a detailed emergency provisions for which are all facilitating the president to face the extraordinary emergency conditions in effective manner. So three types of emergency conditions are expected in country. They are national, state and financial. The national level emergency happens whenever there is an war is happened between India and any other country. And the state level emergency is announced whenever the general public in the state are lost their faith on the state government, and a lot of rebellion happened against the government in the state. Then automatically the president will come and take the power, all the power in the state government. And the financial emergency is announced whenever the financial stage of the country as well as the people going below a critical level. So in this type of three emergency conditions, the president is having all the power to manage the situation. So this kind of transformation of the political system from federal to unitary is a unique feature of the Indian Constitution. Basically, our political system is federal, but in the case of emergency, we will become unitary. So, this type of strong conflict change is happened only in our country. In case of emergency, only it is expected. And the next one is three-tier government. So this three-tier government principle is not found in any other constitution of the countries in the world. So this is nothing but giving power to the municipalities in addition to the central and state. See, in our country we are having the central government, which is led by the prime minister, and state government, which is led by the chief minister. In addition, we are having number of municipalities. In Tamil we can say the nagarachi, perurachi, managarachi. In this way also we are having municipalities which are all governing a very low region. So they are not like central and state government. So in order to assist the state government, the municipalities will act. This third level and three tier government structure is only found in India. This is very necessary for the countries like India, which is having very high density of people. So the last point, salient point of Indian Constitution is cooperative societies. This cooperative society concept is developed very recently in the year 2011, which is giving a constitutional status for starting and protecting the cooperative societies all around the country. In order to facilitate the democratic, professional, autonomous, and economically sound in among the people in the state and the central government. So these are all the very important points of the Indian Constitution document. And the same time, due to the amendments happened in the Constitution document, the points mentioned here will be increased. So there is no restriction in the development of the country. So we can expect a lot of salient features will be added in the later stages in future. So thanks for listening, and you are all expected to refer some more literatures to get the elaborative idea on the various salient features of the Indian constitution system. Thank you very much.